Hello chess friends, and welcome to Azarov's chess channel, and welcome to my Basics in Chess series. In my Basics in Chess series I'm doing opening rules, middle game planning, and of course the endgames. And today's time again for a nice endgame study, and today's subject will be the two connected pass pawns. So the two connected pass pawns, they have really a dynamic power in an endgame. And you see two connected pass pawns on the 6th rank are even stronger than a whole rook. So I've already set up here the position, and you see we have here now this rook on d4, which is of course trying to stop these two pawns, and of course the king is a little bit too far away. And now in the next move white can play of course the move c7, and of course we are already threatening here to promote on c8. That's why black has to play the rook on c4, and then we simply push the pawn on d7. Rook takes on c7, and we have now d8 here, and of course it's a winning game for white. So now I wanted to show you a position here. A position in an endgame can be, we have here of course two pawn islands. In many endgames you don't want to have many pawn islands, of course. Black's pawn structure is more healthier here, but we have the power here of the two connected pass pawns, and it's hard for black here even to create at least one pass pawn, and we have two, and the rook, black's rook of course will be deflected by these two pawns, and they're hard to stop. So let's see now a possible continuation. Of course white will play a5, and now the rook goes behind. We have now king to b5. Of course we want to support these two connected pass pawns, but the good thing is we can always play in front of the pawn. We can go with the king in front of this b4 pawn, and it's hard for the rook to check the king, and of course that gives us a flexible position to play with the a pawn or with the b pawn. So we have a very nice position here to simply go forward with our pawns. Of course black king can also not be protected but attacked. That's what I meant. But black has this problem. He hasn't created so far a pass pawn, not even one. Meanwhile we have of course two. So we have here h4. Now black is trying here to create at least one pass pawn. So of course after a trade of pawns, we see here that black has a weak pass pawn. It's weak on h4, and of course it always can be here catched with the rook. So in the continuation we have here a6, and if black tries to advance the pawn, this pawn is not protected by the king. So of course we have here a rook on h8, and now after maybe king on f4 we can simply take the pawn, and it's of course a winning game for white, because we can play then king on b6, then again b5 and a7 and a8, and simply win the game. So in the continuation, if black plays here the move g4, we will simply take again, and after f takes on g4, we have now again sort of stopped here a little bit the position, and after maybe moves as h4, we will simply take g takes on h4, but then black will simply continuing the game with one pass pawn, and it of course can always be met with this rook on the g file. So I see black has really problems to create threats here for white. Meanwhile we have here these two connected pass pawns, and of course we said if we get them on the 6th rank, we create a winning game. So in the continuation, black would maybe after a6 he'll play rook on a3. We go simply with the king again. You see, if of course rook to b3, then we have again b5, and we are sort of going slow but really nice forward, and black doesn't have any time to attack the king here. So now after rook takes on g3, we again go simply forward. After rook on a3, we have a8 the promotion, rook takes on a8, rook takes on a8, and now well black is also has also now 2 connected pass pawns, but they're not on the 6th rank. We can already meet them with the rook. So we have here b5, and after king to d5, we now go simply after these 2 pawns. So you see in the continuation, if black tries here h3, then we have simply rook on h4. Of course, now the same idea doesn't work, because if now g3 comes, we have here simply taking here this pawn on h3. Of course, after g2, we have here now rook on g3, and of course it can always be catched by this rook. So in the continuation, after king on d5, rook on h8, black can try maybe with his other pawn, but then we simply go for these pawns, and of course this pawn can also always be catched by this rook, and we will have then this very nice pawn, and of course a winning game for white here. So I hope you realize this concept of these 2 connected pawns. They have a really nice dynamic power in an endgame, and here I've already set up a position. It was played by the top Grandmaster Arkady Naidic and Daniel Stellwagen. It was played in the Weikanzee tournament in 2006, and we have here sort of an well, complex position, I think. But here Arkady Naidic shows really nice endgame playing. We cannot talk about middle game anymore here, because you see the pawn structure is really static here. Basically black has to try to develop his knight, and you see we don't have any more the queens here on the board, and what white can play onto it here is this 2 on 1 pawn situation here on the G and H file, and he will try to of course get these 2 connected pass pawns here on these 2 files, and he can do that by simply giving up maybe his bishop here for the pawn. So we have here now knight on f3, of course by Naidic, first development of the knight. Now of course knight on c6, and of course we want to get more central with our king. This is the main rule while playing an endgame. We want to get our king more centralized, and of course meanwhile we have connected the rooks. So now comes knight on b5. We have here now king to e3, a rook from a on f8. We have now rook from h to f1. We have knight on e7, and of course the target is here the very nice square of f5, so that's why Naidic plays the move g4. c5, we have a4, knight takes on d4, knight takes on d4, c takes on d4, and now a very nice endgame move. We have here now the king on f3. So of course this is now not a problem. He could have taken here this pawn, but it's really not important, because these 2 pawns are really nicely blocked here by this d3 pawn. So basically this structure here with d4 and d5, that's basically 1 pawn, not two pawns. So we have here now rook on h7 by black, and now Naidic goes very nice, you see, again behind his 2 pawns, and we have here now knight on c6, rook from f to b1, rook to c8, now rook on a2, knight on a5, and now rook on f2, rook to g8. I'm not gonna comment all of these moves. I wanted to just to see this importance of these 2 connected pass pawns. So we have here now rook to c2 again, and now black is trying here to trade the rooks. So of course Naidic took the rook, and meanwhile you see now we have this position here where we maybe can here sacrifice the bishop on h6. So we have here now king takes on c8. King goes more forward here on h4, and now we have knight on c6, and now Naidic uses here the pin. He pinned here this knight on the king, of course, and now after king on d7, we have rook sacrifice on c6, king takes c6, of course, and now very nice again this bishop sacrifice, because you see now if the rook would have taken here this pawn on h6, of course these two pawns are not on the 6th rank, but now they are supported by this king, and in the continuation we have here g5, and of course if rook takes here this pawn on h5, that doesn't bring him anything, because we will have then here this pass pawn on the g file. So of course the continuation is rook on h8. Now we have g6, king on c5, and now we have here after g7 again the situation with these two connected pass pawns. They're over the 6th rank, I hope you realize it. And now again with the same idea, playing h7 and h8 the promotion. So after bishop on h6, you see we have here now king on d6 by black, but again with the same idea. Now we simply go forward with our king. We don't want to lose the bishop anymore, because the king has come and is trying to help to defend here this promotion here of these two pawns. And we have here now king on g6 by knightage, rook on f7, bishop on g7, rook on f4, and of course here g5, and that's the moment where black resigned, because he cannot catch these two pawns. They have this h pawn has a clear path here on the h file, so of course it's a winning game for white. So I hope you realize this power of these two connected pass pawns, and if you playing an endgame, try to get this position where you recreate these two connected pass pawns. Keep in mind that two connected pass pawns are stronger than a rook, even in an endgame. So of course this is I think a very nice endgame strategy for you to memorize. So of course you can also watch my other video from this endgame series. You can watch my supported pass pawn here on my YouTube channel, and of course you can also watch all of my basics in chess videos, and of course don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks you for watching, guys. Chess is the best.